morning, everyone. I'd like to convene the county work session meeting together for March 19th of 2013. First item on our agenda is the approval of meeting minutes from March 12th of 2013. Are there any amendments or additions to the meeting minutes for March 12th?
Page 3. Just the last word in that paragraph, you might want to change that.
With which paragraph?
The first paragraph.
Is there any other amendments or additions to the meeting minutes from March 12th? Can I hear a motion to approve the amended meeting minutes?
I move we approve the minutes as presented with the correction made.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the county work session meeting on March 12th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is a presentation by the Maryland Rural Development Corporation. And I'd like to call up all those people from Maryland Rural Development Corporation.
Good morning, Mr. Raj, Ms. Moore, and Al, good to see you as well, and my friend Vicki, always a pleasure to see Vicki. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Kevin Brooks. I have been fortunate to be working with the Maryland Rural Development Corporation, MRDC, that's short, for almost 2 decades as executive director. We have served Cecil County since 1985. We are a private nonprofit community action community development agency that works throughout the Eastern Shore as well as rural parts of Maryland, as far away as Washington and Garrett County. In Cecil County, we're known as your Head Start provider. We are the grantee for Head Start. We are also a housing counseling agency, approved housing counseling, and we provide transportation for employment and training. I have with me 3 of our top staff from Cecil County, Ms. Marie Price, Transportation, Ms. Marisol Rodriguez, who is our Head Start Director, and Ms. Sheila Stronaker, who's our housing counselor based out in the Northeast. We're here to say hello, welcome. This is an exciting time for Cecil County, no question about it. We have worked with commissioners, again, for over 2 decades. I'd like to say a real quick thank you and sympathy to Patsy Nelson Bolander. He was a great man to work with. We have a legacy of working with, with your team and our team, going back to Angie Barnett, who's working here for a while, and she worked with commissioners, of course, Bill Manlove, Phyllis Kilby, and Jim Mullen, who still sits as our president of the board of directors for MRDC. MRDC's board, and that's one thing we need to talk about, is a tripartite board, meaning that it's split into 3 different representations. It is representatives of the local service partners we work with, whether it be social services, Red Cross, churches, other service partners. We are 1/3 of the clients we serve. So low income people sit on our board of directors. Also, 1/3 of our representation is from the elected or appointed officials in the jurisdictions we serve. And we're here to kind of introduce ourselves again to a lot of new elected officials, maybe say hello to some old friends about having a representative from your council on MRDC's board. Mr. Mullen sat as the representative of the council until his, leaving the council. So there's a vacancy there, and we'd like for you to consider an appointment to our board that meets bi-monthly, and it pretty much oversees the policy and procedures of the operation of MRDC. MRDC is about a $5 million agency. Total statewide, we have about a $15 million impact on rural Maryland. These numbers that I throw out today will be in a fact sheet that you'll receive in the April 2nd hearing for the budget for 2014. A fact sheet and the annual report will be in your hands by those 2 days. Today, again, is hello, first blush. I'd like to turn the floor over briefly. We're going to be as brief as we can in our presentation to Ms. Marisol Rodriguez, again, oversees 3 counties of Head Start, Hartford, Cecil, and Caroline County. Very experienced and very passionate about Head Start, how it works in your county.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. We actually have 3 counties that we serve, but today I would like to talk about our Cecil County Head Start program. We serve 5 different centers of 150 students throughout the year. We collaborate strongly with the public school, with Chesapeake College, the Family Education Center. We have an inclusive program right in Gilbert Manor. And it is very important to have a representative from the government office on our board, so, I'm here to petition for that. And the importance of also our transportation program, because they are part of our resource with our families and providing them transportation to and from work when it's needed. Our program, Head Start, its motto is to promote self-sufficiency and to encourage families to be the first teachers in their children's lives. And so, I'm here again just to let you know we do serve five different centers here in this county, 150 students every year, and that's not even to talk about what we have on our wait list for Cecil County. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisol. As I was driving up this morning, of course, it's foggy on the shore coming up, and of course I passed Cecil County's public school buses out on the road. I also passed MRDC's Head Start buses on the road. We've been serving those roads again since 1990 here in Cecil County. So very proud to be a part of that and the families here. Transportation has been probably the first entree we ever helped out with. Services in Cecil County back in 1985, working with medical transportation, providing to hospitals and doctors. We still carry on a small program here, Joint Access Reverse Commute, which is funded in part by the county, in part by the Maryland Transportation Administration. Ms. Marie Price from Cecil County has been coordinating that program. She can say a few words, please.
Good morning, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. We are currently using 2 minivans to transport an average between 25-30 people per week to and from job sites. In addition, we do work closely with the Haven House and our local shelters, the Settlement House, Wayfarers House, to help those residents to get out, to be able to obtain a job. And it's just such reward to see people go from living in a tent in the woods to being sheltered and then being able to get employment and move out into an apartment and obtain transportation on their own. So during the past 7 months, we have driven over 50,000 miles in the county and made a little over 3,800 trips. 129 job sites that we've taken people to. And it's just very rewarding and just a very needed program. We have a lot of success stories. I could go on all day just with that, but I won't.
Thank you, Maria. Again, transportation can be provided for either employment training or employment work sites. So that's the important thing to know about the transportation program here. Sheila Slonaker is a Neighborhood Works certified housing counselor, MRDC, that's just been recertified as the HUD Housing Counseling Agency for the Eastern Shore at this last September, so we are certified through September 2015. Sheila is working here along with local organizations and of course your the county housing department to kind of help people through what we still see as the elephant in the python of foreclosure and foreclosure prevention. So Sheila, a few comments, please.
Hi, we thank you for having us and allowing us this time. We currently have 150 active cases in the Upper Shore region. I provide first-time buyer counseling, budget credit counseling, and foreclosure intervention counseling. We have partnered with Elton Housing Authority to provide financial education with the residents that the properties they manage, and our main focus, although the housing has been on foreclosure regarding the biggest needs, for foreclosure intervention has been in the eastern and central locations of our county, has been the hardest hit. Also, another need that I'm seeing is, when we're transitioning the families that are not able to maintain their homes into housing, that a lot of the apartments and the rentals we're seeing is as much as their mortgage payment was. And that is also hard when you're having a lot of rural families that are having to go to and from with gas prices increasing and other economic factors. So, the third quarter report for DHCD, shows that we had 15 notices of default, 25 notices of sales, and 7 homes that have been, repurchased from the banks. We are stated to have a significant increase in foreclosures for the year 2013 and going forward, which is a great concern. I'm averaging about 5 to 6 homes or families right now a month. So that's going to be increasing as well. So my concern is reaching out and being able to assist these homeowners that don't know that there is help out there for them.
Thank you, Sheila. Again, our first today is to say hello, welcome. I look forward to working with all the new officials, Ms. Moore, everyone. Now, of course, always, we've worked together for quite a number of years. Craig, thank you. Seen Craig get here, hopefully. We will have a letter of invitation come from our board of directors. Thank you, sorry about that. Official letter of invitation to have a representative appointed from your body to our board. However, we know that the invitation is always there. It has been well used. It has been well, I think it's been well served for the county of having our services here. So we are facing, as everyone is, budget constraints. We are also being affected by sequester. We are coming up with 5.1% increase, that unplanned decrease, effective March 1st, unless something happens in the next couple of days, which I don't have to anticipate. So all agencies are being strapped. All agencies are having to do more with less. We know that. We work with our board to help find other resources, as well as to provide good oversight, governance, and policy, and stewardship of the funds that MRDC does receive, both from state, federal, and local governments, as well as private nonprofits. With that, again, we'll say thank you. That a fact sheet will be brought to you with the impact of MRDC's financial impact, direct financial impact. It's just over about $600,000 in both. This is payroll and vendor expenses. Our total impact probably is about $2 million into Cecil County this time. So with that, we'll say thank you. We wish you well for the day. I know it's a busy time of year, and we'll have representative here on April 2nd. Thank you, Mr. Hodge.
Thank you for coming in and talking to us and giving us hold on just a minute. Giving us a broad brush view of what you do. With your permission, I'd like to ask the council members to ask you some questions,
sure,
if you don't mind. And who would like to go first on the council with questions?
I have a number of questions. I guess the first I would direct to you. The tent city that they have erected in Elkton, I mean, what would be your solution to this problem? How many people do you think are involved, and how could you solve this?
That's a pretty broad question.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
It is. It's a very large problem. In addition to my position with MRDC, I am the community services representative for my church. And we work very closely in trying to assist the homeless, to direct them toward resources that will enable them to get benefits that can relieve this problem. There are some that are there because they want to be. There are others, there are is 93 years old. He cannot stand up straight. He can barely walk. He lives out of a car. This is just, the situation is out of control, and something needs to be done. One positive move is the Paris Foundation. I'm sure you've all read something about that. That started as the result of a phone call made by actually one of our ex-van drivers who was concerned about the needs of the people. And on March 24th, there will be a building dedication. On the 25th, we will begin serving meals indoors and helping to get these people out of the park. And we work diligently to assist. What is my solution for ending homelessness? One person at a time. Everybody working as a team, enabling our neighbors. Other than that, I don't know.
The building that you said you're gonna dedicate, where is that?
It's located right next door to Shaker and Gas office. There on Bridge Street across from Hats, sort of across. It used to be the Fastenal place.
Is this this is not housing, this is just a place to feed these
No,
kids?
it'll just be a resource center where they can come and get information for, like some of the homeless are veterans, and they'll be directed to the agencies that work with the veterans, and some need medical help. And when their medical needs are met, then they can go on and do something more constructive to get away from that lifestyle. They will be served a meal once a day.
Do you view the county government as being an impediment to you providing assistance, or somebody works with you to provide assistance?
In the very beginning, the county government, no. Other than the local police, they didn't understand. We don't have the opposition that we did 5 years ago. No. I don't think the county government is an opposing force.
Councilman McCarthy, you have any other questions?
Yeah, I do have another question. You had referred to foreclosures by banks and basically displacement of people. How do you assist these people? Do you find them places to live, or do you basically try to stop the foreclosure process? Note that these questions are not so broad and overwhelming, but these appear to be very, very big problems throughout the whole nation, not just here in Cecil County.
If I may, in line with the solution, I'd just like to mention that one of our employees was living in a tent, not in Tent City, but still a tent in the woods, and was able to move from there into a shelter, and from that shelter into an upgraded, still a shelter, but a step up. She is now driving one of our vans and living in Thompson Estates and planning to be married very soon, doing well. So it's just a matter of timing and resources, and it works.
Thank you.
Okay, to address your questions, with foreclosures, I work with the lenders directly, helping them to assist with different government programs that is out there available, or local, the banks, their own programs that they have. Not everybody qualifies for that. So we have to assist them in transitioning them into helping them know where to look for housing and giving them the resources that we have available to them. as I mentioned, that's one of the detriments, and that also leads to the homelessness, is because of the rents being up so high. A lot of our landowners and homeowners take advantage of our foreclosures, clients, you know, because they know the need is there and they can do it. So how to prevent that, I'm not sure, but as my office, I pledge to work with the clients as much and as closely as I can to help them achieve success. Just because they have a foreclosure does not mean it's the end of the world. They can always start over and rebuild their credit. And that's what we have to do, is give them hope. And that is my job, is to provide hope. And as well as our state's goal is to provide hope and help end this foreclosure. You know, by working, give these clients a chance.
Do you find that the bank's willing to basically work with these people in most cases?
If the income is there. If there is no income, then they can't. There's no monies to work with. However, I am finding them more willing to work with people now than what they were a year ago. The government has really stepped into that and has mandated, you know, more time, a lot less paper is getting lost, let's put it that way.
Did you read a book by Neil Brodsky called Bailout, by any chance?
No.
You should read it.
Councilman Dunn, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Councilman Brumell, do you have any questions?
Yes, I've spoken with Dave Mahaney, about the, assistance that his, department provides, and, a lot of times they can intervene. There's people that don't understand, that they're struggling with their rent or their mortgage payments, and that there is help out there. You know, I'm seeing that there's a lot of struggles that people have right now, whether it be their employment, mortgage, and it's contributing to the drug problems and also the drug environment that we have. How much have you been encountering, that the people that you're helping, they've been affected by drug abuse?
I have not, to be honest with you, not that I am aware of, with the ones that I'm coming in contact with.
With the people that are in the tents?
The drug use is prevalent. It is, at an accelerated rate. And it's not, you know, it's from, a young person reaching the age of 18, and their parents say, you know, they're on their own. Where do they go? They go out on the street. And it goes right on up to, elderly. It's really out of hand.
So that's what came to mind when he had asked, what can you do? I had a feeling that it did play a big part, and it's gotta be done on many different levels. And how much are you interacting with, providing information to local police and suggestions, any of that going on? The partnerships that you've had sound very, collaboration is very important to be effective.
We don't have an official relationship with the police, but we have ongoing interface with the police. And there's a total of, I believe it's 21 churches right now, or faith-based organizations working together to provide resources. They're giving literature, they're giving counseling, whatever seems to be the need on an individual basis. So, sometimes the police come and talk to them, and sometimes they come and, it's not a good situation. There's a lot of positive things happening. We're better off than we were 5 years ago, much better.
Well, offering the support and the resources is key, and, the, anticipated 2013 foreclosures, what's that based on?
With DHCD and, HUD, expectations and working with the lenders.
Reality Track, which is a national tracking, reality tracking, you can find that online, it's Google realitytrack.com. It is a national database of foreclosures by state, by region, by town, by zip code only. And it'll give you information of how the foreclosure market has been going through and what is anticipated in the next 2 quarters. Again, MRDC, we are a multi-service agency. The homeless issue is a major issue. I know it's probably more prevalent here in Cecil County than in so many other counties that we're active in. We are not a homeless shelter provider. We did work with the men's shelter. Years ago, we were the provider to help bring the monies in for the Cecil County men's shelter. We were the pass-through agency to do that. So the homeless working right now is working pretty much out of our normal activities for foreclosure, counseling, or employment training, or Head Start, but it is all part of working with the family of Cecil. So we'll do our best to work with other agencies and provide whatever services we can here locally. If I may, Mr. Hodge, I did not speak of one of MRDC's programs that has had an impact in Cecil County over the past decade or 2, and that's working directly with small towns. MRDC, we're the lead agency for the Small Town Circuit Rider program, which provides town managers to about 17 small towns, small being 500 and less in our opinion, throughout the Eastern Shore and Western Maryland. In the past, Fort Deposit, Charlestown, Chesapeake City at a time had some help from our program, as well as Cecilton. So there are not any active towns in the program at this time. Matter of fact, we're getting ready for the 2014 application process, which we see will probably be opening up a little wider. It's been flat funded from the state for many years. We have kept monies in through our work in the legislature to keep sure that monies in the Circuit Rider program has been available. It is matched by the local town. So part money comes from the state, so part comes from the town. MRDC provides the administration. Real quickly, nonprofits are known about how well they administer dollars. MRDC's administrative rate is 12% at this time. So way below the national average, way below what is federally mandated 15% cap. We are at 12%. So, with that, any other questions? I'm sure that
I did.
Oh, hey, how are you?
That's okay, fine.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I had 2 questions.
Sure.
Number 1, have you worked at all with our Mass Transit Authority? I'm thinking that maybe we could eliminate the need for those vans because they definitely provide the services.
We would like to have that conversation in earnest over the next few months. MRDC is working with the contract, the state of Maryland, for the JAR program. That has been a unsustainable program for us to operate.
Well, most mass transit
And
systems are unsustainable.
when you work with limited discretionary cash, you plug where you can, and we have plugged as much as we can into Cecil County in this program for the past couple of years. We're facing some hard decisions on that contract. So I think the conversation is now to have it with the transportation provider. Leslie Day Diver used to work with us back in the day. She's still on staff?
No.
No, that's, sorry.
But we do have a coordinating council.
We'd like to, and Marie does sit with that council.
My other question was regarding Head Start. Is that a
Please.
5-day-a-week program?
We offer different options on our program. We have, full-day program, the, Elton Judy Hoyer, site is a 5-day program.
But in Gilpin, it's 4-day, am I right?
Gilpin is a 5-day
It's a
program.
5-day program,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, and that one is, as well as getting up an inclusive program.
Mhm.
We have a mixture of typically learning children with disabilities. We have a total of 30 children that attend that site, and we provide transportation to that site.
Thank you, that's it.
Generally, how do Cecil County citizens find out about the programs that you offer?
Please.
What I would like to say, with Head Start, we advertise all the time. We have a massive recruitment. We are online. Head Start is, MRDC is actually online. We go through the social services, health department. We work closely with all of them, and including the public school. So we do advertise everywhere, and we have a resource guide too. Just kind of linking Marie and housing with Head Start, we also provide these services to our families. You know, we have resource guides that we provide to them to know what's out there, what are the resources available to you in Cecil County, because that's important for them to know. We provide training, whether it's on drug abuse, whether it's, housing, so we in that collaboration with, in conjunction with them.
So you get a lot of referrals from other social agencies.
Oh, yes.
Now, generally speaking, as a percentage, what is your funding for your programs from the federal, state, and local? Do you have an estimate of what they are?
Actually, the annual report will give you the pie chart on that. Since Head Start is our largest program, and it's a federally funded program, that takes up what would be a lion's share of the pie charts for children and family services. The rest, so if that's 2/3 of the annual budget, the $5 million.
Is that all federal?
That's federal, but however, so, for every dollar that Head Start programs, MRPC, other programs are granted, we must raise 25 cents of that dollar. So if there is our in-kind, we know the word in-kind is services either brought via volunteerism, donations, or under market rates. We generate over $875,000 worth of in-kind annually for our Head Start program. So when you look at a dollar for Head Start, look at 25% of that is being raised locally in the community, by the community.
And if they also help, we serve 447 children within 3 counties.
Councilwoman Bruno had one last question.
Has there been any feedback on the casino impact, with, some people that we're helping, that they may have?
If I could answer the question, we were receiving funds from the casino, I'd be smiling right now. The answer is
No, that's not what I was asking.
Okay, are we seeing
The
impact?
Yes.
That would be hard for me to answer. I don't know if our team could answer that, other than the influence of, Murray, you have any comment?
Okay, and the other, why is Cecil County higher? Why are you finding that?
For the foreclosure?
Not foreclosure, but being homeless.
I would, my commentary would be, I think it's location. I think in the I-95 corridor, you have much higher traffic through this area. The stream of people flowing through, I think that you're closer to the Philly area, metro area there, you have the issues there, of course the Baltimore area there. So that's that, and plus the unemployment rate is a little higher in Cecil County than it is in the state of Maryland right now. I think the unemployment is like 8.5, and on the state it's about 7.2. Poverty rate is a little higher than the state average, 9.8 versus 9.0. So I think it's the concentration of people along the I-95 corridor, and the impact of unemployment, the impact of I guess the urbanization in some areas. In rural parts of Cecil, you're not seeing as many of the issues they are on the 95 corridor. So, yes,
I'd like to give the county executive an opportunity if she has a question.
I'd like to welcome her. Good morning.
Good morning. No, I don't, and I appreciate the questions from the council. I've learned quite a bit.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. We will be talking amongst ourselves on which, whether and who we'd like to support you with a member of your board of directors, and hopefully you'll hear from us soon. And will you be coming back with your budget presentation, or are you just going to drop off the papers?
We will have representatives here. Unfortunately, I'm out of the state that week. We'll have both our CFO, we'll have a program staff here, and there will be a fact sheet as well as our annual report along with that invitation.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
The next item on our agenda is the council rules and procedures. We have a marked up red line, blue line, black line, copy in your packet. What is, well, Council Manager Massey, do you want to bring us up to speed on where we are today?
Sure. What we have done is identified the changes that have been suggested so that you could go through, particularly the changes of the request for the legal opinion, the travel reimbursement, the council budget, the council work session, and workshop meetings. Those are sections that were newly added. And so, it's what, would you want to talk about, those sections and the legal opinions that were given by the county attorney, as well as the information from the HR and the treasurer about travel reimbursements?
Mr. President, excuse me, if I can offer a suggestion, I think a few meetings ago we agreed to schedule an afternoon work session on this, and I think rather than going through this document and in light of the lengthy agenda, perhaps we should hold off and do that, perhaps next week or the week after.
Is Councilman Dunn's suggestion supported by all the council members?
I support it.
Will it be held here?
Yes, it can be held in this room. It can be recorded. Okay. Mr. Massey, would you schedule a workshop meeting at your earliest convenience? Maybe on a short budget presentation. Well, some of our budgetations are lengthy and some are short, and maybe we can combine it with another budget presentation. Okay, I would ask that all the council members please study this. Some of the items, I've asked Mr. Massey to give you choices on which direction to go, on different options to solve the problem and create policy for the council members. Is there any other comments on the rules and procedures? Moving on, Councilwoman Bruno asked to place the VLT community grant funding program on our agenda. Councilwoman Bruno, would you like to state the case?
I had spoken with Mr. Massey about this, that I feel we need to have a conversation of how the VLT grants will be handled this year. It being a new process, charter, is it the council's responsibility to oversee these grants, or is it the executive side?
Well, it's my understanding that since we've moved on to charter, since we've initiated this program, that the spending of the grants is an area that goes in the purview of the executive branch of our government. And this grant money is revenue and it's spending. And in my mind, we can certainly have some input, but I believe that the program would be overseen by the executive branch. Unless you have a reason why not.
Well, I think it being a public application process, and we hold public meetings, that I don't see why there's any reason it couldn't be considered on the legislative side. There's only so many casinos in the state. There isn't a precedent, I believe, on this.
Well, as far as public input, there's no doubt that the county executive could also have their own public meetings and public hearings and discuss this publicly, either with us or without us.
I guess the other point is that with the county executive, it would be at the discretion of the county executive would have the last say, whereas 5 members of the council would be able to provide input and weigh the ranking system that we've accepted to validate the choices that have been made. And those choices would be out there for the public to see why they were chosen. So,
Well, I'll let the county executive speak up as far as her asking for our involvement in the ranking of the needs of the county. But let's remember that the local development council still oversees this whole process. And so there is another layer of oversight of this, the plan to spend the money. So it's not just the county executive picking and choosing and doing her own thing. Is there any other comments from any of the council members on this issue? Does the county executive have any comments?
There are several levels of oversight, Mr. President. Not only is there the local development council that approved our multi-year plan. We are finishing up the second year of that multi-year plan. We have one more year, that will be fiscal year 14. As a Board of County Commissioners, Cecil County established what they wanted within that multi-year plan, and we will execute on the third year of that plan. That is part of the budget process that the council, the budget is now in the council's hands, so the council will have an opportunity to look at it. The process that has been set up is that the recommendations for the grants are made by an independent committee. And as the Board of County Commissioners, we reviewed those grants and the recommendations therefore. So as we move forward, I'll be developing a new multi-year plan and for FY15. So there will be a lot of opportunities to work through anything new that we want to do within that.
Yeah.
Do you foresee the role of the council in approving or influencing or impacting that multi-year plan in the future?
I would have to look at the charter and in terms of how it discusses the separation of duties, so I'm not prepared to answer that question right now.
And I would suggest that if it was on the county executive side, if it's on the county executive side, there would be a final proposal. I'm anticipating this is the scenario, and it would be in the form of a resolution proposed, and we would take a vote on that. That would probably be the extent of our input. So, you know, I understand that the local development council provided their input, their extended plan, but the commissioners did provide substantial input and deliberation in the final product. So I just offer that as a different point of view, whether to go with the council side or the county executive side.
I guess I'd like to ask the county executive to kind of put together a flow chart for the future grant process, so that everyone, the citizens, the council, the executive office knows what's going to happen and who's going to be involved and what the process will be, and who will be able to have some impact over that process. So, executive board, would you agree to that?
Certainly, we'll take a look at the charter and how it addresses the
Right.
issues of
Can
separation
you
of
put
responsibilities.
a written plan together or a process together so that we all of us understand what it is?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Mr. Hogg?
Yes, sir.
In regards to the casinos, apparently the revenues have decreased somewhat recently. And when you basically have the monies that are provided by the revenues, if the revenues do go down, you decrease all the recipients proportionally.
What you'll see in the budget this year, Councilman, is that the amount of grants, normally in previous 2 years, it was at a level of 500,000. This year, because of the decrease in the amount of VLT revenues to local government, it's gone down to 400.
So do you eliminate programs or you just decrease everybody's take proportionally?
No, what we did is we decreased the amount of community grants from 500 to 400 programs.
I have a question, Mr.
Go
President.
ahead.
The state was supposed to be formulating a group to handle a gambling hotline. And I know that we had several organizations within the county apply for grant money to handle that. Is that developed? I mean, do we know if the state has in fact initiated that hotline?
What I do know is that a group came before the county commissioners several months ago to explain that they had received some funding and some support from, I think, the University of Maryland to develop a program. And they were months out, but it was being funded by the casinos and the University of Maryland. But I have not heard back from them or anyone else on the progress and where they are and what's going on.
Actually, it was the Academy for Excellence, it's a University of Maryland, program that received the, contract, by the state of Maryland to handle, the gambling addiction. They were focusing on prevention. We were very concerned with the hotline that they put in place. I called the number. It went down to Louisiana. It was a very centralized, phone system. And, those agencies in the county that were interested in applying for grant money, Haven House, they did not get funding. That money is still sitting there, $50,000. I would propose that we incentivize the local churches. A lot of the pastors are already counselors. They'd be equipped to help people in their sanctuary or in their community if there is a gambling addiction. And there is specific education available for the counselors on gambling addiction. And the Academy for Excellence is offering training, and Vicki Brinkerman has that information that can be provided to anyone who's interested in pursuing that education. This is something we really need to become proactive on. The casinos are now 24-hour operating, I believe, and they have table games. And there is evidence out there that casinos in a community will impact the community, that there is more likelihood of addiction gambling the closer you live. So we need to be proactive.
I just want to add, the Family Services Association also applied for that grant money.
I think there were several people that applied for the grant money, but before we spend the money, I think we should find out whether or not
We need it.
the 1-800 program has been progressing or not, whether they're, and I think one of the problems was not only was the 800 line went to some distant state, but they didn't have listed our local agencies here in Cecil County.
They
So
do
some,
now. Well, we followed up and they do
that's,
now.
okay, that's what I need. I think we should be brought back up to speed. We're really, this, again, I think the money is in the hands of the county executive.
What are we
And-
gonna do with the 50,000 that was carried
We'll
over
have to ask,
from last?
have to ask the county executive.
This is a good time.
Well, the process would be the same as it was before. They would submit a grant application for the funding, if it's still there, it certainly could be considered. But they would need to be proactive and submit an application for the funding.
Well, is there an opportunity to use that money in another, format, that it would be, a program that the county puts together to be proactive, for resources within the county?
I'd have to go back and take a look at how we set that up. The allocation, the recommendation for the allocation came from the independent committee to the board of commissioners for 50,000 as a set aside for gambling, addiction prevention. So I'd have to go back and take a look at what the format of that recommendation was and how to proceed therefore, because we need to stay consistent with that. But if there's opportunity for other options, that would certainly be revealed during the research process.
I would recommend that if there's faith-based groups that want to work together and have a proposal, they put it in writing. I'd recommend that if there's different partnerships of different counseling or other groups that want to provide services for this subject matter, they put a program together and put it in writing and provide it to the executive for her consideration. And she can take the ball and run with it towards the local development council or the committee that the commissioners put together and get input from those groups.
I would propose that there's another scenario that we would, provide a structure of support for gambling addiction in the county.
Who's we?
The funding would be available for continuing education, that it would be a more localized, response
I think-
and resource support. I would just suggest that might not be the best scenario, but that is one of the options that we should review.
I believe the Cecil County Health Department does have a program. I think they are the lead for this, and I'm sure they'd be happy to work with partners. But we do have a program in place, and if there's improvements, then I'm sure we can work with them to make it better.
Does the state of Maryland recognize any responsibility in any of these problems financially or morally?
Well, Al, part of the casino program requires the casino to pay a certain percentage of their revenues to the state for gambling addiction issues.
Okay, now, do they pay that to us?
No, they don't pay it to the county.
And
No,
that's a
but-
really good point, because that's where the money should be coming back.
You're
to.
absolutely right, that's the point I'm trying to get to.
Well, the money needs to come back to our communities, that's in one shape, form, or another. If it's through this excellence program, through the contract that they hired out or something, but our citizens need to be able to avail themselves of the benefits of this money that's created for preventing and hopefully curing gaming addictions.
One of the problems that we recognized was that when you go to the Maryland Center for Excellence for counseling, they refer you to counselors that have a PhD and require funding. You have to pay them for counseling. When you have a gambling addiction, you pretty much don't have any money, a lot of it, and it's just not a realistic scenario.
I'm certain our governor would probably provide counseling, wouldn't he?
Okay, let's move on to the next item on our agenda. The Cecil County Commissioners have put together a committee to work on a Brownsfield revitalization incentive program that included some modifications and amendments to our zoning and subdivision ordinances. And that ball got dropped by the commissioners, and so Councilwoman Broomall has asked to bring it back to life, so the floor is yours.
Well, speaking with the previous acting director of economic development, Mr. Clower, I had spoken to him about, what was it? Clow. Yes, Clow. Roy Clow. Sorry about that, Roy. We had a very good conversation about the opportunities in Cecil County. Sadly enough, there are a lot of brownfields, and during this committee process, we found out there's a lot of support on the state level for funding to reclaim these brownfield sites, and there is infrastructure a lot of times that's already been established. So any incentive that we can provide to reclaim these brownfields would be moving in the positive direction. I wanted to have Eric Sundstrom just briefly go over the proposals that were put together by the committee.
Just a brief history for the council. As President Hodge had mentioned in calendar year 2011, the former Board of County Commissioners had appointed a group of citizens to work with the staff of our office to develop a brownfields ordinance to be inserted into our zoning ordinance. That committee worked during the latter half of 2011 into the earlier part of 2012 and came up with a draft brownfields ordinance, which was an incentive-based ordinance based on an overlay zone. Excuse me. The way the process would work, envisioned in that document, was that an individual at that time would have come before would have requested a designation of the overlay zone to be placed upon their property. If that went through the Planning Commission and at that time to the Board of County Commissioners and was approved, then the individuals would have been able to move forward with the criteria as outlined in the draft brownfield ordinance. It's an incentive ordinance, as I mentioned, that means that if they were in an industrial zone, they would be able to have a wide latitude in the types of uses that they could potentially place on the property. They would also receive fast track designation as part of that project, so that they would always remain on the top of the review pile for the various agencies that would be looking at it. And they would be eligible for relief from some of the setback requirements, landscaping requirements, and other requirements that our zoning ordinance has through the site plan review process administratively granted to them. As far as the residential side of the equation goes, the individuals would have the incentive of, if they were in the growth area, being able to avail themselves of the uses that are permitted in the residential mixed use as well as the employment mixed use zones. That means they would have greater latitude in what they could potentially place on the property at higher densities than they may be able to do with the base zoning. They would be able to petition the planning commission for relief of certain restrictions that may make it difficult to come up with a creative design in order to fit the higher densities on the property, or the mixed use types of uses that would be afforded to them as part of that process. So that was where it was left. We gave the former Board of County Commissioners a briefing in May of last year. The board at that time had requested more information on some of our existing buffer yard standards. And as President Hodge said, no further direction was given after that meeting. And so here we are today with a draft ordinance that was presented in May of last year, and is back again before council at this time.
What's the pleasure of the council to move on this item?
I guess I wanna ask why the commissioners didn't move on it.
I don't know. I don't think there was any objection. I'll admit that I did raise some issues on the buffers. I thought some of the buffers were excessive, that I wanted the buffers to be at the discretion of the planning staff, as well as other discretionary items that the ordinance would permit the staff to have. And so that was just one ball, but I thought that was answered. And I just don't know whether it was just a low priority. There wasn't any real, no one was knocking at our door to develop any of these brownfields at that time.
Exactly.
But I think we need to put something in place if we're serious about brownfields to get it in the books before it becomes a problem. We have to play catch up.
I would certainly support this. I mean, we have a lot of brownfields in this county, that's for sure. And I think that there was a group of architects that came to the commissioners to talk about our capabilities that they had to help develop these brownfields. It was Mr. Gonzalez that I think.
He was actually put on that advisory committee.
Okay.
An advisory committee, this is between the planning staff and the advisory committee. I think this is their work product.
I think we move
Yes.
forward with it.
Okay, is there anyone that would object to putting a bill together to amend our zoning ordinance?
I would suggest, since it's been so much time since we had it out there, we need to get it, put it through the process for, will it go before the planning commission, to where we can get input from the planning commission and the public at that time? Because I know that there were concerns about some of the incentives, maybe some of them might have been, too ambitious. I would just like to get a little bit more.
Well, this is a question, because there was a discussion earlier last week about what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Do you have a bill to have discussion about, or do you send something to the planning commission to have their opinion before there's a bill? So I'm suggesting that we put a bill together to amend our ordinance, and then provide it to the planning commission for them to review the bill, and the bill will include the changes and modify the bill accordingly, or we can drop the bill altogether if the planning commission has objections. But we ought to provide something to the planning commission for their review.
It's a lot easier to make decisions on the process if in fact you have the material in front of you. I mean, if the world is your stage, it's very difficult to move in and expedite something.
But in no event do I want to pass any bill without the planning commission have their time to do what they need to do, to review and approve or disapprove or suggest amendments.
Well, the difference would be that if we were to, just put it before them for their review first, we could get their input and then draft the bill, and be more likely that they would be on board. So I would suggest we do it like that, rather than put the bill, get their input, have to make changes, and, I just think there's an extra opportunity for the public to come.
Could I have a motion from someone to move forward in one direction or the other?
May I ask one question? Sure. Mr. Senator, you're responsible for this bill, for this,
Yes.
are you pleased with it, having reviewed it for a year? Do you see any additions or deletions?
Yeah, there was, the committee that, has been referenced to was made up of elements of the Maryland Department of Environment, the Department of Business and Economic Development, or Local Economic Development Department, the engineering community. John Gonzalez was mentioned from KCI, as well as Kevin Hansen from KCI. We had citizen representation provided by Mike Pugh and Valerie Falcioni, and a developer who has gone through this process, Eric Schwab. Were all part of the committee, so we had a variety of, and Jim Waters as well. We had a variety of individuals from different perspectives as part of the committee, all lending their expertise and their experiences. And the result of that was the document you have before you. All the members of the committee felt that that was the best product that they could agree upon from their different perspectives. They think it was something that could work, and maybe a valuable tool in the future for individuals who decide to take these sites on and move forward with them. As far as the process, any proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance has to go through the planning commission for recommendation, and then we'll go to council. So there would be planning commission review as automatically as part of the amendment process.
Okay, wasn't one of the issues, the definition of brownfield?
Yes, that was one of the things that the committee wanted added into it, right?
It's consistent with the definition of the state now.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, we ran that through Jim Carroll at Maryland Department of the Environment, and he was fine with it.
So if you're pleased with this, I would suggest that we just move forward.
Okay,
with
can I
the
have a
motion.
motion?
I make a
You put it in
motion
the
to
motion.
move forward with the adoption of this.
Okay, and does that, can you amend your motion to include preparing a bill to move forward?
Yes, if I know how to state it. I would move forward, we prepare a bill to adopt this as a resolution to the planning and zoning code.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to move forward with the implementation of the Brownfields Redevelopment District VR ordinance by a bill. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of moving forward with the motion, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Can I ask a question real quick, Eric? How many brownfields are located in Cecil County? Do you know?
The exact number escapes me, unfortunately. It's been a while since I looked at it. Mr. Black put together a map showing where all the sites were located, and there's more than you would think, especially in the rural areas. But the exact number, unfortunately, I can't remember the total right now, but I can happen to send that information to you.
Okay, Council Manager Massey, would you please prepare a bill, and would you also notify the county executive of our intentions? Right? And certainly if she has any input, ask early. The next item on our agenda is consideration of a request by letter to Andy Harris to come visit the county. We don't have a copy of that here. We do? Yes. We had discussed this at a previous meeting, and if Council Manager Massey put together a draft for consideration. Does everyone have a copy? Do you want to amend it?
We need to include the Dredgesville site, Pierce Creek. That issue came up Saturday.
Do you want to add a whole new topic to it?
And you might just add that and also any other issues that might come to mind.
Yeah, there probably will be others, you're right.
Does anyone object to having the county executive participate in this meeting?
I would welcome her participation.
Could she be the co-signer to the letter?
If she would do, that'd be great.
Any objections?
Mr. President, could I add some feedback that may be helpful? The Clean Chesapeake Coalition in our teleconference last Friday had a discussion about reaching out to the federal elected officials. I had shared with them that I had talked with Senator Mikulski's office about this issue, and we talked about now is the time to reach out to federal elected officials to make sure that they knew what was going on and to ask for their help in dealing with this. This particular letter is to one federal elected official, and we may want to work in conjunction on the issue of the Conowingo Dam, and perhaps Pierce Creek too, with our federal elected officials, and I'm not sure what the intent was of just contacting Congressman Harris.
I would like to contact all our and congressional delegation individually. Can we do that?
Well, I actually asked Mr. Massey to also contact Sarbanes and Mikulski.
Can we have 3 different letters? Asking them independently. It's highly unlikely to be able to coordinate together, but I'd just like to meet with them independently.
Yes, and what the county executive was referring to with the Clean Chesapeake Coalition, that was the meeting we had with Gilchrist. Chip McLeod and I sat down with Gilchrist, and he gave us direction about encouraging us to contact the federal officials on this issue. And he said he was going to help behind the scenes as well. So.
Actually, Councilman Burwell, that's not what I was referring to. This was a teleconference last Friday.
Yeah, I
So
spoke to Chip about that.
So, my question would be, if the county wants to work in conjunction with the Clean Chesapeake Coalition on the issue of the Conowingo Dam, and pull all the counties together that are concerned about this issue, or if you want to do a standalone meeting with the federal elected officials.
I'd like to do a standalone meeting.
Yes.
And coalition meeting with the multiple counties. I'd like to do both. Is my preference. Any objections?
That's what I
Okay. So don't CC the delegation at the bottom. Send them separate letters. Okay. Next item is sludge permit application. The Cecil County has received an additional sludge permit application. And I've asked Council Manager Massey to request another public informational meeting on that particular application. And that would be probably separately from the previous application/meeting. Any objections for requesting another public information meeting from the Maryland Department of Environment?
No objection. This is a renewal. They let it lapse. So this is a site that is currently receiving the sludge. And I was surprised to hear how many acres. I think it's 1,500 acres. And the applicant really is Synagro. And if anybody would like to read some interesting information, just Google Synagro and controversy. That's what I Googled and referred it to Mr. Massey. Did you read that? Yeah.
Where is it Where is the site located?
It's,
I'd like to see it.
Warwick.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Massey, has, got more information, he forwarded the letter that he got from Hussein to you as well.
I also mentioned that, Mr. Sunstrom provided a copy of the application, so we have more details of your application.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Bay Cabinet meeting with the Bay Cabinet secretaries and the county council. And, County Executive Terry Moore has some discussion that you'd like to bring to our attention.
Just as a review, there was a letter sent to each county, or at least the rural counties, I'm not sure it was sent to all, dated January 3rd from Maryland O'Malley, offering a meeting between the counties and the Bay Cabinet to discuss issues related to clean water at the Chesapeake Bay. The Bay Cabinet is made up of 4 secretaries from Maryland Department of Environment, Maryland Department of Planning, Agriculture, and the Department of Natural Resources. We did initiate a meeting request, and it was originally scheduled for this evening, but the meeting was scheduled while I was on vacation. So when I learned about it upon my return last week, I thought it would be a good idea for the legislative and executive sides to sit together and talk about what we'd like to achieve from this meeting prior to having it. We've been receiving some additional information and feedback from counties who have already met with the Bay Cabinet. We're working with the Clean Chesapeake Coalition to discuss ways to make this meeting as effective as possible. As some of the feedback we've been getting has been very helpful in terms of figuring out how we want to format our meeting. And as you all know, there's been a lot of research on the impact of the sediment that's behind the Conowingo Dam and how that sediment impacts the Chesapeake Bay and probably most importantly, the cleanup efforts of the bay. And one of the suggestions that I had was to invite this Bay Cabinet to visit the Conowingo Dam as part of their visit to Cecil County. I think they say the picture's worth 1,000 words, and I think an actual visit will help them understand the magnitude of the issue of the sediment behind the dam and the fact that the sediment is coming from states other than Maryland. So my suggestion is that we would set up a work session with the legislative executive branch to discuss our goals and objectives for this meeting, and so that we can maximize our effectiveness.
Well, I thought that we were part of this process from the beginning. This cabinet meeting stemmed from a discussion out of the Chesapeake, Clean Chesapeake Coalition meeting, Chip McLeod encouraging us to get in touch with Bay County, and that's when I had called you, and you were in support. So yes, I think the legislative and the executive side should be collaborating on what our points of tolerance should be, and it should include the tier map discussion, and as well as the Conowingo Dam. We need to keep the conversation open and showing how Cecil County is different than the other counties, and looking for remedies to coming to an understanding. Yes.
This is such a significant issue, as you pointed out, Councilwoman Rubel. There's the magnitude and the ripple effect of this issue. It's not just one particular item, and I thought it was important for the public to know what's going on. So this is just my request that we sit and meet together and have a conversation before we meet with the Bay Cabinet, so that we can make sure that we know what we want at the meeting and make sure that we cover all those important areas.
Is there any objection to scheduling a workshop meeting to work with the executive and the council to prepare ourselves for this meeting with the Bay Cabinet members?
No objection, but I would request that we, as soon as possible, get this meeting rescheduled. And I would not object to an afternoon meeting, to where it was more conducive to conversation rather than it being formal in the evening.
Right, I think that's one of the other objections we wanted more dialogue with the Bay Cabinet members. I think that was one of the reasons that we postponed this meeting, because we weren't ready, but more importantly, I'd rather have an afternoon meeting, or even in a work session meeting, rather than an evening during our formal process. So we can all agree on that today. But anyway, so bottom line is, Mr. Massey, would you please, schedule a workshop meeting for the council and the executive to work together for this, planning, and, work with the county executive to reschedule the meeting? And not on a evening with a legislative session.
Wanted to bring it to your attention too, when the counties are meeting with